Hi there, and thanks for joining me for this week's edition of your Wheel and Anchor weekly newsletter. Coming to you from the last leg of my European tour. I'm here in Tallinn, Estonia, just finishing off the last segment of our 5x5 Scandinavia and the Baltic Capitals program. We've had a marvelous time, a spot of rain today. That's the first inclement weather that we've seen in weeks, actually. We've had remarkably good weather and we've had a marvelous time discovering some of these fascinating cities like Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki, and here in Tallinn. A first for me, as well as our other members that were along on this trip. And we've really discovered and learned a lot, particularly in the context of current affairs. But I just wanted to, for this week, mention to you about three of the trends or observations I made about European travel currently, based on, as I say, my travels for the last, since the beginning of the year, quite frankly. First of all, I think that anybody coming to Europe will notice an absence of a large segment of travelers, particularly those from the Asia-Pacific region. Before the pandemic, we saw large bus tours, great numbers of travelers coming from places like China and Japan and so on. And obviously, as a result of policies over there, we just haven't seen those travelers at all. And so in some ways, that's, it's been frankly quite a bit of a relief, because that has meant less of the, again, the large bus tour crowds. But apart from that, on to my second point, is that we've still seen very, very busy cities. So travel is, in many ways, other than these observations, is sort of back to normal. But if you are headed over to Europe, the other thing that is quite noticeable is the fact that, COVID, from a pedestrian standpoint, is kind of like a thing of the past. There's no masks to be seen anywhere in Europe, pretty much not even on most of the airlines in Europe. And I think that this is quite an eye-opener, as I've welcomed travelers, members coming from Canada in the last couple of weeks, coming off flights, wearing masks, all of the protocols that have been in place. But in Europe, that's just, as I say, it's kind of a thing of the past. And that's interesting in the context of what's going on, because, of course, the media are reporting about a resurgence of the wave, not only in Canada, but in parts of Europe. As not only have I've said, but obviously the mainstream media in general, this is just something that we're going to have to live with. And so I think that the mitigation measures that we're all familiar with are going to continue to be important, but it's really going to come down to the individual, to you as a traveler, to decide what is the best thing for you. And the third and final point that I wanted to make, the third observation I've had from my travels over the last couple of months, and I alluded to this last week, but it's travel chaos. And of course, I've said it before, and it's the obvious things are, of course, the airlines that are really struggling with maintaining the capacity based on the demand that they've seen for this summer travel season. But not only airlines, hotels have been struggling with staff, and restaurants. Oftentimes restaurants that were open all the time aren't even opening on a full-time basis, only a few days a week. Hotels have closed off, in some cases whole wings, because they can't get the staff to fill them. So this, combined with the other inflationary factors in our environment, is definitely putting an upward pressure on travel costs. And so I think that we'll probably see some lull of that as we get out of this travel season into the fall and winter. But it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the future, because I don't think this is a problem that can be instantly solved. So the travel chaos, and again, I'm not a pessimist, but I think we just need to be realistic in terms of our expectations. So if you're planning on getting a plane coming to Europe, just be wary that things may not go smoothly as one might hope. So apart from all that, I just want to mention we just launched our Fjords of Norway program, Majestic Fjords of Norway, in a webinar this past week. If you missed it, please do link to the recording of the webinar that is in the blog and check that out because the pricing for this year really is quite good compared to what their regular pricing is. Long story there, but if you watch the webinar, you'll see what I mean, and do join us for that trip next May. We'll also be releasing the pre and post programs for our Japan trip. So for those of you who are booked on Japan, the trip is actually already sold out, but I'm going to talk about our pre-trip option to Seoul, Korea, and our post-trip to Taipei, Taiwan in the webinar. And again, the registration link is in the blog below. Lots more to come. I look forward to catching up with you next week, where I will be reporting back from my old hometown in Toronto, Canada. Take care.